What's going on, everyone? Welcome in to the Fantasy Roundup. I'm your host, Spencer the Guru Urquhart, alongside me, Gabe Henderson. We are gearing up for the semifinals, fantasy football playoffs, hot and heavy, week 16. How you feeling, Gabe?
Feeling pretty good. Spencer, before we went on air a little bit ago, we were talking about all the semifinal matchups we're in. So, I think we're both feeling pretty good going into this week.
Right. Yeah, both have some teams still alive, thankfully. I did have a lot that hit the dust, the pour one out for my teams that got eliminated. Thanks a lot, Tyreek Hill, the guys that we had some guys like him and Bijan, guys that we thought were going to pull through for us, but unfortunately didn't. But we're here now, ready to get this thing going. We are brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. For those tuning in for the first time that want to get in on the action, make sure to head on over to Caesars for a risk-free first bet if you haven't signed up yet. And also we're here to answer any questions you may have for this week 16 playoff battle. Make sure to drop those in the comments. We're at a new time today, 3 o'clock. We'll have Bayou Bets right after this at 4. So appreciate everyone that's being flexible and still able to join us here at 3. So let's get to our headlines here before we we'll get into it here. Get to our headlines. Jamar Chase likely to miss some time with a shoulder injury. That's a tough break there for the Bengals, and for us fantasy players that had Jamar Chase. Bengals in the playoff hunt, so they definitely don't want him to miss some time, but it looks like the former LSU star won't be available for us when we need him most, unfortunately. Falcons have benched Desmond Ridder for Taylor Heineke. The train wreck known as the Atlanta Falcons continues. Bijan Robinson not used nearly as much as he should have been. Arthur Smith, I was trying to defend Arthur Smith since I had the Falcons futures bet, but I'm done defending Arthur Smith. I cannot wait for the Falcons to fire him because that guy has no idea what he's doing as a head coach. He makes Dennis Allen look like a good coach, y'all. That's saying something, because we know how I feel about Dennis Allen, even though the Saints, we'll have more on the Saints at 4, but Saints, I got to admit, played a really good game Sunday, although it was against freaking Tommy Cutlets DeVito, who has really no business being a starting quarterback. Isaiah Pacheco is set to return in week 16, coming off the shoulder injury. So that's kind of surprising. Thought he might miss more time, but he's set to return. And then Keaton Mitchell, man, that was tough to watch on Sunday night. His knee bent in a way it shouldn't have. And so he is unfortunately now out for the season with a torn ACL. So, man, just hate to have all these like gloomy headlines, Gabe, but that just seems to be the theme of this season. It's basically just a game of survival.
Yeah, Spencer, I think the one positive for fantasy owners and just fans of football in general, the one positive headline there is that Desmond Ridder got benched. So we don't have to watch any more of that this season, I hope.
Right. Yeah, maybe Arthur Smith actually got something right there. And so that's a good segue into our next topic. Falcons change QBs. And we're going to have some on Tyreek Hill. It wasn't in the headlines, but Tyreek Hill that's just such a big thing for fantasy to have literally the number one player sit out week 1 of the playoffs. A lot of people had bye weeks that had Tyreek Hill, including Latino Heat in our listener league. Shout out to Hank Trill, to where he didn't get bothered by this. But I had a couple leagues where I didn't have the bye and had Tyreek Hill and ended up one and done because he didn't play. But they didn't need him. They still whooped up on the Jets. So we'll start with the Falcons. And I know you got Bijan, Gabe, in some leagues, including the listener league. You're able to skate by me in that one. We'll have our listener league recap in a few minutes. But I mean, it's getting to the point to me to where is Bijan even still a start anymore? I mean, in Arthur Smith's offense, it's such a disaster. I don't even know if he's a must start anymore at this point.
Here's the unfortunate reality, Spencer. A lot of people used high draft picks on him, myself included. I took him number 6 overall in our listener league. And the reality is, when you draft a running back that high, you don't have great depth. So unless you're one of the lucky ones who has great running back depth, you almost have to start him. I think you can feel better about starting him now that Desmond Ridder is out of the picture. I think Taylor Heineke, they're really going to lean on experience and really kind of utilize those weapons in the last few weeks as they try and make a push for the division, which is still winnable. They're only a game back, and they hold some tiebreakers. So I think Bijan in most leagues, just out of necessity, you almost have to start him still. But if you have the luxury of not having to start him, I probably wouldn't this week, just because there's way too much risk involved.
Yeah, that's a solid take, man. I'm with you on that. Any leagues, probably 12 teams or deeper, you're kind of forced to start him because even in a limited role, he's still capable of breaking off a big play. And he's got a good matchup against the Colts. So unless you're in a shallow league, I'm in one of my home leagues, there's 8 people. And so, like, I've got the luxury of having Kenneth Walker, James Cook, and Alvin Kamara. So I think I'm going to go ahead and sit Bijan as much as it pains me to do it. I mean, the fact is, it's a committee. It's a committee backfield between him and Tyler Algier. And that's the reality here. Arthur Smith is stubborn. It's, what are we now, 15 weeks in? He's not going to change. He's just not. I mean, he is what he is. He's a dumb head coach. I mean, he had Derrick Henry, who he had as the workhorse. But now that he's with Atlanta, I feel like he wants to put his own spin on things and get super cute with who he uses and such, and it's just it's flat out embarrassing. I mean, it's to the point where I'm embarrassed that I even put a futures bet on Atlanta. I mean, Jim's gonna next Bayou Bet's gonna have to give me crap for that because I mean they're dysfunctional. They're just a dysfunctional team, especially on offense, which is supposedly Arthur Smith's calling card.
Yeah, 2 things real quick, Spencer. One, shout out Kenneth Walker, who had a great game last night. I heard you mention him briefly. My best flex pick of last week, so I'm kind of going to break my arm, patting myself in the back there. But in terms of the Falcons, here's the reality you face now. If you're the Atlanta Falcons, if you're going to get rid of Arthur Smith, you've also got to get rid of the GM now, because drafting Bijan Robinson made 0 sense. They have way too many weapons, but yet they're still way too incompetent. Tyler Algier is still showing that he's more than capable of being a starting running back in this league. Arthur Smith prefers him. So why the hell did you wait? Why are you wasting Bijan Robinson and all these other stars if you're not going to use them at all? So, I mean, it's getting to a point where you've really got to question not only Arthur Smith, but the leadership inside the Falcons front office.
Yeah, which is a former Saints executive, Terry Fontenot. And so to me, it just seems to me with Fontenot, he gets too enamored with the flashy toys on offense. The past 3 years, they've gone skill. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson. And that's, I mean, you can do that maybe once every 3 years, but you can't keep going skill first round every year. You've got to beef up the trenches. And the Falcons' offensive line isn't terrible per se, but if they'd have spent one of those picks on an offensive lineman, it probably would create more running lanes for Algier. If they'd have just stuck with Algier and not gone Bijan, and then let Bijan go somewhere where he'd have been a better fit, that would have just been better for everybody. But let's not get too far down the rabbit hole there. We'll shift gears to Tyreek Hill, who's questionable with an ankle injury and just really sold us down the river. At least with Josh Jacobs and Keenan Allen, like they played Thursday, so if you had them, you're able to make backup plans and probably not have it affect you too much. But you had Tyreek Hill, you had him in all the way up until Sunday morning, and we're just praying that he would be deemed active, but he was deemed inactive. I remember when I woke up to that, I was like, what the hell? I was like, no. I was scrambling. And also Chris Olave. Chris Olave was a late inactive, and at least he get plays Thursday. Saints and Rams play Thursday to where we'll know Olave's status before any other games. But Tyreek Hill, man, it's going to probably be a GTD once again. Like, I don't think it's going to be something to where we're going to know ahead of time. They're probably going to limit his practice reps and all that. So they do play Sunday at least because they do have that Monday slate and some Saturday. Tyreek Hill, he plays Sunday at 3:25. So it's not ideal, but at least it's not Monday, but as far as if he's going to play, I mean, we don't know. Just make sure to monitor the practice reports. I would think he will, though, if I had to predict right now, because they're playing Dallas. I feel like if they'd have had a better opponent last week, he may have tried to push through, but they had the Jets to where it was like, all right, well, we should win this easily, and they did. So they played it smart, and so I would think he'd be back in the lineup this week, but if he's a little gimpy, though, then that could be an issue. But to me, if you have him, you got to roll him out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know, if they hadn't played the Jets, if they had played a game like they got the Cowboys this weekend, I think he's definitely going to play, and I think he could have gone on Sunday. I just think, Mike McDaniel realized, hey, we really don't need him. It could have been worse. You talked about how frustrated you were waking up to the news that he was inactive. They could have made him active and just not used him all that much. So, I guess shout out Mike McDaniel for being a good guy and looking out for fantasy owners there. But,
Yeah.
I think he's going to play this week because this is almost a must win for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Speaking of not being a good guy for fantasy owners, Pete Carroll. What the hell was that last night? Makes Geno Smith active, and then we don't find out that it's Drew Lock starting till literally right before kickoff. Like Schefter didn't even know. Like that's, I mean, not that it mattered for most people, but still, it's just like, come on, man.
If you've got Geno Smith as your starting quarterback, chances are you're not playing a meaningful fantasy game this week, anyways.
Yeah, well, it's super flex leagues though. It makes it to where those fringe QBs, a lot of people moving to super flex makes it to where those guys end up having value. So you just never know. Just never know. Even for bettors, like imagine a sharp bettor that had a lot of money on that game. Although Geno to Lock, that's pretty much a lateral move.
Yeah.
So yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in here on the Fantasy Roundup, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. My pal Marty in the chat. What up, bro? Shout out to Marty and Kevin. We'll get to your questions in a little bit, Kevin. I see you got a handful of them there. We'll get to our Q&A segment right after we recap the Listener League, which 4-1 out for the Guru squad. We went down to Mr. Gabe there, Tua Infinity. Tua got him to the next round. It wasn't pretty. Neither one of us had a good week, but Gabe did just enough to get by. My team I kind of figured I was going to lose when Keenan Allen went out because my team just wasn't very deep in that league, unfortunately. Shout out to all the listeners for being super active on the waiver wire, making life tough there to where it was like, I mean, no one's like super stacked. I mean, everyone's pretty balanced there, but, just didn't quite have enough horses there, so Guru Squad is out, as well as Salmon's team. I'm on a roll. He had a good run, though. Was able to sneak into the playoffs, but run CMC William, man, anyone with CMC right now is rolling, and William put up the best total of anyone in the playoffs, 155. So he'll be taking on the number 1 seed, Hank Trill, Latino Heat, who was lucky for him, had a bye because his team he had Tyreek Hill and Dak and just a lot of guys that stunk, but the bye came at a perfect time for him because I don't think those guys will bounce back. So him and William, that's going to be fun. And then Gabe taking on Mike there, waiver Wi-Fi, I think his team's called. He's got a Chiefs logo. I'm not sure what his team name means there, but he's good, though. He's a 2 seed, got the bye, has a stacked team. So Gabe's team's probably going to have to score more than 103 if you want to get to that chipper.
Yeah, I need Bijan Robinson to show up, plain and simple. I was amazed that I was able to get through this week with the performance that Bijan had, 0.4 points. Just, you can't have that happen. You can't. And so I need him and a few other guys to come up big this week if I want a chance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you got lucky. You got to face my terrible team. My receiving core was just awful, man. I got to put these guys on blast. Drake London, garbage. DeAndre Hopkins, garbage. Zay Flowers, garbage. Like, those 3 alone, once I saw that, I was like, it's over with. Because Keenan Allen was my anchor there, and then without him, it was just like, well, RIP.
Yep. Luckily, my guys stepped it up a little bit. 103. Not something that'll usually win you some games, but luckily, got a good matchup this week.
For sure. All right, let's do our Q&A here. Our first Q&A segment. We'll circle back around at the end of the show, but we'll get our initial Q&A segment knocked out here. Kevin Childs asked Breece Hall or Devin Singletary this week.
I would probably lean Breece Hall. I think he's got a more favorable defensive matchup. And I'm staying away from the Texans right now until I know the health of their stars on offense.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, Hall, they get the Commanders, who are absolutely garbage on defense. So, yeah, really good matchup for him. Stroud, Singletary. We don't know if Stroud's going to go. We think he'll go, but Singletary gets Cleveland, who's a really good defense. So, yeah, so you got to go Breece. I know the Jets are struggling, but they've got to put up at least a couple touchdowns in that matchup, I would think. And Breece is one of their big playmakers. So yeah, that's who I'd go with there. Also, should I be playing Nico Collins or sticking with Noah Brown? Well, to me, if Nico is a go, you got to go Nico, right, Gabe?
Yeah, I'd assume so. It all depends who the quarterback is. This becomes a tougher question if it's Case Keenum starting, just because of what happened last week. Late in that game, he established a good connection with Noah Brown. He hasn't started a game with Nico Collins yet, but if it's CJ Stroud, you got to get Nico Collins.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and I would think that Stroud should be back. He'll have had time to recover from the concussion. So hopefully, for the Texans' sake, Stroud and Nico will be ready, because if they are, they should beat Cleveland. But if they don't have those guys back, shoot, Cleveland might pull the upset there. Well, I say the upset. I think they have this thing. I don't know what the spread is. It's probably about even.
I can check it out.
Because it's is it in Cleveland? All right.
No,
Well, it's in Houston, so I would think the Texans would be
Texans
slight
2.5
favorites.
point favorites
Yeah,
right now, Caesars.
that makes sense. That might jump to 3 or 3.5 if once Stroud's cleared, because then I would think the Sharps. To me, the Sharps, I mean, Stroud should be back. So if I'm a Sharp, I'd probably go ahead and pound that 2.5, because the Cleveland's been I don't know, they've got a good defense, but really Joe Flacco, come on, man, Texans should handle the business there.
That's the thing. Those are the games the Texans lose, Spencer. Forget we lost to the Carolina Panthers and Desmond Ridder. So.
Oh man, yeah, you know better than me. You're out there in Houston, so you know the agony of the Texans. So
yep.
Let's get to our next one here. Thoughts on Bears defense against Arizona? I think they're a solid play. We're going to get to our streamer defenses here in a little bit. They're not my top streamer for this week. They were last week, and they did well against the aforementioned Cleveland Browns. But I think Kyler Murray, he did okay against the Niners. Not that great. But I think this week he could do enough to make the Bears defense not a great play. I still think they're solid. They're probably about a fringe top 12 defense, but not one that I'd start with confidence.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, if you're looking on the waiver wires for a defense at this point, I have one word, what are your thoughts? Yes, the Bears defense has played pretty well, all things considered recently. Eberflus is coaching for his job against an Arizona team that really doesn't want to win. So
yeah, you got a point. Great Wentz has one for us. Roll with Kraft over Kincaid. He knocked it out of the park week 15. Has been trending up for weeks. Yeah, I had Kraft on the waiver wire recommendations last week, but to answer your question, no. I'd stick with Kincaid. I think the Bills, I think they have another tough game. Well, the Chargers, they should roll. But, I mean, the Chargers are so bad on defense to where I would think Kincaid bounces back. So I would stick with him.
Yeah, and you've also got to look at the health of Luke Musgrave. I think I was perusing some waivers earlier, and I saw that he was projected some points in one of the apps. So, maybe he comes back this week. I must admit I don't follow Packers tight end news that closely, but that's something to watch. I would look that up before making a decision.
For sure. Gus or CEH? I think I'd go Gus, because Pacheco's supposed to be back and Keaton Mitchell's donezo. So Gus, they're facing. Let me make sure the matchup checks out. Oh, the Niners. Yeah, that's probably why he's asking it. I think I'd still go with him though, because they'll probably get at least a couple goal line opportunities, and he's clearly their guy down there.
Yeah, I would still go Gus, just because I don't know how involved Clyde's going to be. He had a really good game the other day, but yeah, I just don't know
that's not going to continue.
Pacheco coming back.
Agreed. Casey had one for us. We thinking indoor golf, Matt Stafford or Russell Wilson rest of season.
Love the clarification on the indoor golf.
Yeah, I mean, in indoor golf's a lot better than outdoor golf, so I'd go indoor golf.
I would either go indoor golf or Matt Stafford. I think Stafford's going to put up some numbers over the next few weeks. If they want to sneak into the playoffs, these are must-win games, especially starting Thursday night. So I don't think you can go wrong with either of those guys. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be the play here. They're going to lean more on their running game in these last few games. So I think it's one of the first two.
And what to do with the Dolphins defense from here on out? Should I try to stream the Colts, Bears, or Broncos?
I've actually got that answered here in a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the Broncos have a really favorable schedule. We'll get more on that in a little bit. The Colts are pretty good too. They get the Falcons this week, who are garbage, but they're not that good overall. So I'd probably say the Broncos for now. But yeah, we'll have more on that in our defense segment. Marty likes your name, Gabe. Says
I
there's a
appreciate
Vikings
that.
media guy named Gabe Henderson. he's a
Thank my parents
Vikings
for
fan.
that.
So yeah. And Mark has a few NOLA comments we'll get to here real quick. If you want to, we'll have more on that at 4 on Bayou Bets, Mark. But he thinks Pelicans win 5th in a row in NOLA versus Morant. I don't know, man. I think they could, but Memphis is getting like 8 points. To me, if I'm betting that game, I'm hammering Memphis with
Yeah, I'm
Ja
taking Memphis
back.
with the 8 there.
Yeah, that seems like a value. I know the Pels have been playing better, but I don't really like them in this spot.
And the Grizzlies got worked the other night by the Thunder, and they actually played well late. So I think
Yeah.
there's some value. I think there's going to be some excitement around Memphis. But even though Ja Morant comes back, they're still missing big guy Steven Adams and a few other role players. So, they're not going to be great, but I do like them to take the 8 points.
Yeah, and Derek Carr, player of the game Sunday versus Tommy Cutlets. Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, yeah, he played well, but it's like, where has that been? I mean, it's freaking week 15. I mean, it took you 15 weeks. I'm still not happy with Derek Carr, but he did play well. I'll give him some credit at least. I'll turn the hate off for now, but I'm definitely not sold that he's the answer. Let's see. Adam has one for us here. This will be our last question before we go to the waiver wire segment. Stevenson, Warren, or Chandler at flex? Also, do you think Keenan or Chase will play? Well, I'll get to the Keenan chasing. I think Keenan will play. I don't think Chase will play. That's what the early tease looking like. But obviously, still keep an eye on it. But that's what I'm thinking as of now in that regard. But as far as your flex question, I would lean Warren for now, unless Madison's out again. Because Ty Chandler was a freaking horse this week with Madison out. If Madison doesn't go, I think I'd go Chandler. But if Madison goes, I'd go Warren in this case. I definitely wouldn't trust, even if Stevenson plays, I wouldn't trust him with the ankle. I don't know how Belichick is with with running backs.
Yeah, I would agree. If Madison's out, I would go Chandler. I think Chandler's a good play going forward. I actually, I'm going to disagree with you here, Spencer. I don't think Keenan plays, and I think we know at this point, Jason.
Oh, yeah, because they might just be tanking. That's a good
I mean, at this point, there's no reason to rush your star back. They've got nothing to play for. I say just keep him out, but that's me. The Chargers could think something differently.
Yep, and dang, Kevin didn't hear our answer as well. We'll get to we won't go in depth. We went in depth earlier. We unfortunately don't have time, but we had said Brees over Singletary. We had said Nico if he plays, and we had said that Bears defense was an okay play, but not a must start.
Yep.
So, and then that Shohei deal, that was, oh man, that was crazy. I would give more on that. I'll just give a quick thought on it. That was a slick deal by the Dodgers. They're lucky he agreed to that, because I feel like that I think that's going to, unless MLB puts something in to prevent that, that's going to become the new norm.
Yeah. I mean, it's what Todd Bowley, the owner of the Dodgers, does. He finds those financial loopholes, and that's what he does. He does it in soccer as well.
Yeah, and it actually kind of made sense for Ohtani, considering how much he makes in endorsements. And then when he's retired, he'll be making just as much as when he's playing.
And
So.
one thing that a lot of people haven't talked about, but I have heard it mentioned, with those deferred payments, he can move out of California and pay less in taxes. So that's something to watch. I think it's a good deal for everyone involved.
Yep, they definitely took advantage of the loopholes there. Let's get to our waiver wire segment, though. I'll kick it off here. And Derek Carr, y'all. It's not pretty, but bottom line is there just aren't many quarterbacks available. And I think it's going to be a shootout Thursday night. Rams, Saints, I think they'll get into it. Stafford, we know he can sling it. And Carr, I think, is going to be forced to sling it in this one. And I was encouraged by Carr, not just that for one, he took care of the football, and two, he got a lot of weapons involved. I think he's finally starting to get comfortable with the guys. Well, he's kind of forced to. The guys not named Olave and Mike Thomas. And, Mike Thomas is out. Olave might be out again. So to me, in a way, he actually looked better with the secondary options. He was able to spread it out more. He didn't really feel like with Olave, he feels obligated to go to Olave, where without Olave, he played more free, it seemed like. So I like him in this spot. It's a short week, but he's be riding the momentum of his best game as a Saint. So to me, he's a solid streamer.
Yeah, I'll tell you who impressed me on Sunday, Spencer, for the Saints was Juwan Johnson. Everyone was
Yeah, he
saying
finally stepped up.
He made some big plays the other day, so keep an eye on him. Maybe as a fantasy tight end streamer.
Potentially, he's gonna have to show me more for me to trust him. But I
Yeah,
guess if
for
you're in
sure.
a super deep tight end premium thing, he just we have all kind of league formats nowadays. So yeah, running back got Zamir White. This is contingent on if Josh Jacobs plays, as far as if you're gonna start him or not. But I'm not. I still think he's worth a pickup whether Jacobs returns or not, because if the Raiders get eliminated from contention, like they might just sit Jacobs out, or Jacobs himself might be like, look, man, they might just they're kind of like the Keenan Allen thing. He might just get shut down, to where Zamir White, they might want to see what they have with him here down the stretch. And so to me, he's someone that you hold him, and even if he doesn't start this week, I feel like there's a pretty good chance by week 17, because they're going to get killed by the Chiefs this week, and then they'll probably be mathematically eliminated, where I think Zamir White might be someone you could pick up now, stash, and then for week 17 might be a really good play.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He had a big week this week, and you mentioned with the uncertainty there, and in Vegas, could be worth a shot.
Yep, and the receiver got Parker Washington. I believe that's who you had last week, Gabe, and I had Zay Jones, but Zay Jones appeared to have suffered a pretty rough hamstring injury. He'll likely be out for a while, to where Parker Washington probably end up the number 2 over there. Christian Kirk's out as well. Trevor Lawrence has to have somebody to throw to outside of Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram, who, let's be real, Ridley's been very inconsistent. Ingram is what he is. He's solid, but nothing special. And even if Lawrence is out this week, that's something we forgot to touch on earlier. Trevor Lawrence in concussion protocol. So there's a chance his Iron Man streak comes to an end this week. If it does, I still like Washington, because Washington had his coming out party in that Monday night game with this. And part of that was with C.J. Beathard. And so even if it's C.J. Beathard, I still think Parker Washington could eat, considering he'll be up in the pecking order. He should see pretty much all the snaps on offense.
Yep, I agree. I mean, I shared my thoughts on Parker Washington last week, and with Zay Jones now, that I think you said hamstring, he's going to have a bigger role, and he's stepped up the last few weeks.
100%. So yeah, 2.4%. Y'all go get Parker Washington. That number is going to go way up. And then a tight end got Tanner Hudson for the Bengals. Man, he's been kind of slipping through the cracks, but it's clear that he's now the starter over Irv Smith, and he's done very well with Jake Browning. Browning seems to be more relying on his tight ends and Joe Burrow. And with Jamar Chase out, that should be even more targets for the secondary options. And so I think Hudson is someone that's here to stay. It's clear that him and Browning have a connection, and at the tight end position being so thin, to me, he's a very solid play.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be tough with Jamar Chase out, but, Zach Taylor really likes to spread the ball, get his weapons involved. So I think Hudson's definitely someone who's going to see an increased target share.
Yep. Because, Tyler Boyd is what he is. He's all right, but nothing special. And Higgins, T. Higgins, he'll probably be the biggest beneficiary, but can he stay healthy? That dude's always hurt. So, yeah, so they definitely keep an eye on Tanner Hudson. So, we'll get to our next set of questions here after Gabe's waiver wire pickups. He's got 4 for y'all as well.
Yeah, I went with Nick Mullins. He had a few mistakes the other day, but overall, given it's his first start this season, he played pretty well. He's got a lot of weapons around him, and I think that could definitely lead to some good fantasy performances down the stretch as they try and make a playoff push. It's going to be tough, but Nick Mullins is going to have to play well with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, all those guys. He's really going to have to play well, and I think there's an opportunity for a lot of high-scoring games there for him.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, because with the Marty's a Vikings fan, he knows all the weapons they got over there, to where it's like, yeah, I think Mullins is okay. He's not anything special, and they get Detroit this week. That should be a shootout. So they got Jetta's back. So yeah, I'm on board with the Mullins, man.
My second pick went with Rico Dowdle. Listen, guys, the running back depth on the waivers at this stage of the season, you're not going to get a stud. So what I like to do on waivers in these times is I like to look ahead. And with Dallas already clinching a playoff spot, the Eagles are really struggling lately. Their playoff position could be wrapped up in the next few weeks. And so, Rico Dowdle is someone who would be a candidate to start late in the season. I wouldn't recommend starting him this week. I don't think he's going to get a ton of action, maybe 3-4 points here. But, if you're looking ahead to that championship game, I think Rico Dowdle, I know a lot of people go into week 18 with their championships and they start looking at those backup guys. Rico Dowdle's a guy for me that I'm looking at.
For sure. Yeah. I had him last week and he didn't do good. And the whole Cowboys offense stunk. But yeah, I think this week against Miami, they should bounce back. And, Pollard, like I said, he's not really like a true workhorse. So yeah, there could be some room for Dowdle to get some points.
Yeah, and then I went with Demarcus Robinson. Tutu Atwell been kind of banged up recently. And let's be honest, the Rams offense, I think I saw someone said it in the comments, ever since Kyron Williams has come back, they've looked really good on offense. And Demarcus Robinson has been a surprise in that offense. Yeah, Marty said it. That's a good shout, Marty. And I think Demarcus Robinson is a beneficiary of that. I'm not looking at the numbers currently. I think he's put up 3 back-to-back-to-back good games. So double-digit points. And if that continues, you mentioned, Spencer, you think Thursday is going to be a shootout. And if it is, Demarcus Robinson's going to be a beneficiary of that.
Yeah, for sure. He actually picked up DeMarcus in my 32-man league because JAC saying if you're starting Rico, you're an 18-plus man league, especially in the playoffs. Well, and also, what if Pollard gets hurt? It's kind of like the Zamir White thing. It's like, well, if Jacobs is out, then White's going to eat. If Pollard ends up out, then Dowdle's going to eat. So it's still worth a stash. That's like a lot of these are just stashes. Involved. Yeah.
He's been more involved recently. And not only that, Pollard could sit. If Dallas's playoff picture is wrapped up by week 18, why play Pollard,
Yeah, or by week 17. Because, week 8, most leagues are done by week 18.
Yeah, no, but I did mention in there that some leagues go into week 18.
Oh, okay. Yeah, some do. Yeah.
I'm in multiple too, so.
Oh, okay. I don't think any of mine do because I got it to where I'm not messing with week 18. Too many guys sit out, but let them know why you like Hunter Henry.
Yeah, Hunter Henry, he's been scoring a lot of touchdowns in that Patriots offense, plain and simple. Once again, I'm going to a Patriots player. They're not sexy, but someone's got to benefit. And if you're looking for a tight end with touchdown potential, Hunter Henry has someone who scored a lot of touchdowns in the last few weeks. So, maybe you need an emergency tight end play who's better than Jawan Johnson, who I mentioned I was impressed with earlier. Hunter Henry could be your guy. He's really come into his own once again, really found his footing late in the season, which is a shame that he didn't do it earlier, but, at least he's doing it at all. Only owned in 17.5% of leagues. So maybe you can benefit at your tight end position there.
Yep, for sure. So that's our waiver wire pickups. Before we get to our final Q&A, we're going to run through our last 2 segments real quick here. We'll basically just make them one segment. Best flex and streamer defenses. We'll start with best flex. Let's just be real, low-hanging fruit options here. Unless you're in like an 8 or 10-man league, you're starting these guys. Rashee Rice is mine. Look, man, and for those that don't know, Rashee Rice has become Mahomes' go-to guy. I don't know if Travis Kelce is worried about Taylor or what's going on over there, but he has not been his usual self this year. Rashee Rice is killing it, y'all, and he gets a good matchup against the Raiders. He's a must start this week. If you have the luxury of putting him in your flex, which I do, fortunately, in a few leagues, keep that train rolling.
Yeah, no, I like that pick. We've asked all season who's going to be the one receiver to step up and help out Mahomes, and based on last week, it was Rashee Rice.
Yep, and then, man, James Cook, bro, he's been in RB1 lately. I think it's a great matchup as well.
Yeah, he really has. And, I think the Bills down the stretch are going to keep it simple, especially against a Chargers team that's really banged up. They don't need to stretch Josh Allen too thin. He doesn't even, he said in his press conference after the Dallas game, I feel like the kid who did nothing for the group project and got an A. And, that can continue if we're being honest. James Cook really looked good. Joe Brady's really gotten him more involved. And I think he's gotten into a position where he must start.
For sure, for sure. So now let's move on to our defenses here. I got the Texans going against the Browns. Y'all, Joe Flacco, I believe, threw 3 picks last week. That's a turnover machine there. Joe Flacco at freaking 38 years old. He already wasn't that great in his prime. And now that he's even older, he's even more sloppy with the football. So Texans defense should be able to take advantage of that, have a lot of talent along the defensive line there at the rookie Will Anderson, and have a really good secondary as well with Derek Stingley. So I believe they'll be able to get at least 1 or 2 picks and rack up a few sacks to where, to me, they're a really good streamer this week. And in the next week, if you want to keep them for the championship, they get the Titans, who also suck on offense.
Yeah, I think the one thing to watch with the Texans is the health of some of those defenders. Jimmy Ward exited last Sunday's game with a concussion. Will Anderson didn't play at all. Jonathan Grenard and the defensive line still ate. The Texans played really well down the stretch. They only allowed, 9 points, I think, is 7 of them were off a pick six. So they played really well. They kept Tennessee out of the end zone. But I think Cleveland, they're a bit tougher to deal with. Joe Flacco, everyone talks about, is he elite? Is he not elite? He threw those 3 interceptions a week ago. So, is he going to come back and put on the performance of his life this week? Find out on Sunday.
I don't think he will. I don't think also that's the meme. Yeah, it's Joe Flacco elite. Yeah, that's clearly a joke. So yeah, I would
the elite meter is coming back around, Spencer. It's like it's the Baker cycle in older fashion. So I'm hoping he doesn't bounce back, but you never know.
Yeah, it's been a rough year for quarterbacks, y'all. The guys, I mean, like Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, guys that had been elite all season, just freaking just crap the bed when we needed them in the playoffs. So let's hope the elite meter doesn't become Joe Flacco. My God. So they see you got the Broncos, and they stunk last week, but should bounce back this week, get a much better matchup.
Yeah, when I was going through my Broncos pick last week, I prefaced it with the fact that this is going to be a rough week for them. So pick them up and stash them. And the reason you're stashing them is for this week and next week. They've got the New England Patriots this week, Sunday Night Football. I think, they're in line for a great bounce back spot at home against a team that's given up. And I think their strengths play really well into defending the strengths of the Patriots offense. And then next week, they've got Easton Stick and the Los Angeles Chargers. So, to answer a question that we got earlier, yes, I would drop the Dolphins defense given the tough schedule that they have going forward, and I would pick up the Broncos.
Yeah, Easton Stick. Boy, did he look bad on Thursday. He got some garbage time, but I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that the Raiders were up by so much, he'd have probably gotten like nothing. So yeah, he looked really bad. So yeah, Denver's defense, Bailey Zappi and Easton Stick. I mean, that's a gold mine for defense. So yeah, go pick them up.
Yeah, Spencer, I don't mean to spoil any turkey of the weeks. That's going to be announced here at the top of the hour on Bayou Bet. I can tell you it wasn't me, but if we were going to make a full appearance regularly on a Bayou Bets cast, I would have also worn a turkey hat because this guy right here chose the Chargers to beat the Raiders. And that was I had a good week other than that. Really, I was in the green this week again, but that pick was bad.
Yeah, well, at least you didn't lose all your picks, like the actual turkey of the week, which next on that. Live Q&A, our final segment here on the Fantasy Roundup. Appreciate everyone that's been rocking with us here on this Tuesday afternoon, a little earlier than usual, but look like we got a lot of people tuning in, so appreciate y'all rocking with us. Kevin had one more for us about Curtis Samuel. Pick valid, I'm guessing, asking if he should pick him up and drop Gabe Davis. I would say yes at this point. I mean, Gabe Davis is a yo-yo and it's to the point where I don't want any part of that. So, and Curtis Samuel has been pretty consistent this year. He's one of those inconvenient truth options. He's like doesn't have that much upside, but he's got a very, very safe floor.
Yep. You know, Kevin probably doesn't watch this show every week because if he did, he would know the answer to that. I am Gabe Davis's #1 hater. Drop him in any league you have. Don't care if it's a 32-team league. That dude is not worth a roster spot.
Yeah, and that is, man, that's garbage time, bro. Easton, that's garbage time. Garbage time, man. Come on, man.
They're already down 40,
Don't
42
defend
nothing at
Easton
that
stick,
point.
man. Yeah, come on, man. Come on, man. If he come back next week if he does good, but it's pretty safe to say that Easton Stick's trash. But we'll get to
I
your
think he's better
questions
than
though,
others.
bro. Let's get to his questions here. Start Justin Fields home in Arizona or Dak at Miami. I'm going Dak at Miami. I think Dak bounces back.
I'm going to go Justin Fields. You know, as someone who watched a majority of their game last week, I think he actually played quite well. His receivers let him down, especially, you know, everyone's looking at Darnell Mooney at the end, but there were some penalties in there that really killed him. His receivers dropped some passes. Justin Fields balled out last week, and I think he could do it again against Arizona. You know, it's the Fraud Bowl, Miami against Dallas, and Dallas is away from home. I'm not going to trust Dallas until they get a big win on the road.
I got you. I feel like with Dallas, though, they're such a up and down. I kind of think they come back up this week because Miami, like I said, is also kind of a fraud. So
yeah,
I'll go with it. But yeah, I mean, it's close. I can see why he's asking. So yeah,
go nice options to have at this stage of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, either one should be good. Then he's also got A-Chain going to Dallas or Eckler home against Buffalo. Ooh, man.
I'll go HN. I think, yeah, Eckler has played his way out of so many lineups this year. He's been such a disappointing player. Yeah, and HN, I think he's got the explosiveness. They're going to need to use him in some funky ways if they want to beat Dallas, and I think they can. Mike McDaniel's going to get the ball in his speedster's hands. That's the only way to potentially beat Dallas. So yeah, you know, the Bills laid the blueprint. Wow, that's a tongue twister. Last week, and I think the running backs are going to be very involved for Miami as per usual.
For sure. Yeah, I would have said Eckler, but with the way the Chargers are tanking, seemingly they fired Staley. I don't trust Eckler in this spot. I'd also go A-Chain. The upside is just, just has a lot more upside. So yeah, I was gonna say Eckler, but I actually have got to agree with Gabe on that. The Gabe on Gabe crime, the hate on Gabe Davis.
I've never been a Gabe Davis fan personally. I think he's way overrated. Shouldn't be a wide receiver too. That's the main reason I was down on the Bills going into the season. But
yeah, he had that huge game against the Chiefs, and everyone got on his bandwagon. And he was one of the most overpriced players in 2022 Dynasty startup. So I was like, man, y'all are wasting a pick with.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're live on multiple channels, bro. Where we ask y'all, for those that aren't watching on the Bayou Bets channel, to please go subscribe to that channel. That's our main channel. But yeah, we're also live on the NOLA.com and the Advocate channels. So yeah, we're live and lit.
Bayou Bets channel every week. Turn on those notifications. So especially during the holiday season, we're going live at weird times. So you'll never miss a show that way.
Right, yeah, turn those noties on, y'all. Make sure that y'all are in the loop. And yeah, by the way, we'll be back live right in like 15 minutes, 4 o'clock Bayou Bets. So let's wrap it up here. This will be our last question. In my 12-man PPR league, I need a tight end and a flex. Trey McBride, Laporta, Kittle, and Ken Walker. Leaning toward Laporta and Ken Walker. Yeah, I can't really argue with that. I mean, Laporta's been too good to bench. I know McBride's been trending up, but the Bears are pretty solid on defense lately. Kittle's good, but I mean, he's got the Ravens. That's a tough matchup. And then Purdy's been locked on the Debo lately. So yeah, I'd go Laporta at tight end. And yeah, to me, you got to go Ken Walker, man. He's back healthy in the workhorse. So.
Yeah, you know, I'm a big fan of the double tight end strategy. I like my tight ends. But yeah, I would go Laporta and Kenneth Walker as well.
Yep. All right, y'all. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Fantasy Roundup. Make sure to come back around at 4 o'clock. Bayou Bets. We'll have all the latest in the world of sports betting. Jim Derry and Thomas Casali live to give you all the latest on that. So for Gabe Henderson and Spencer Guru Urquhart, we will see y'all. This has been Spencer Guru Urquhart, I meant to say. We will see y'all next week. Peace.